to Footprint Forum. For those of you who've not been to a Footprint Forum before, it is a member organisation that brings together the senior executives of the corporate value chain to collaborate in the interests of a sustainable business future.
I mean, by the year 2050, 3/4 of the world population are going to be living in cities. Now, that's 9 billion. Actually, those projections have just been revised. It may well be over 9 billion. So on almost every level, as the document which was pointed out, which was adopted by that session points out, it's food, it's housing, it's transportation, and I would say, above all, it's the climate change issue as well. So what you are doing here today is really important because it's showing how, in every respect, social, environmental, and economic, don't forget the social side of things, because that is actually absolutely crucial as well. And all those three grounds, cities are actually the clue. Cities are the way of the future.
Even in a world where we're not taking action, over the next 15 years, there's a huge amount of investment needs to go into replacing infrastructure. Something like $89 trillion worth of investment needs to be going in, even in that in that base case. But their estimate is, in a world that's trying to decarbonise, the addition to that is only around 5%. What we do need to be doing is redirecting the investment flows. It needs to be going in different routes. But the net increase in investment funding required is not that substantial in their estimates. That's globally.
Let's hear how London is setting its sights.
Well, I think in terms of carbon emissions, just purely on a practical front, my own organisation has an annual energy bill of £15.8 million per year. Now, we brought in a firm of energy analysts to review our energy use and look at which way prices were going. And they've forecast that by 2020 we're going to be looking at a 35% increase in our energy bills if we continue with the same level of use. That's a lot of money. So in terms of cutting emissions, at the end of the day, we are talking about cutting the amount of energy we use, cutting the amount of money we spend. So I think that you can separate the moral case from the economic case, and the economic case shines out. I think it's the sensible thing to do. Now, on a London basis, I think adaptation is a real challenge. And I think that as we go forward into the 21st century, we are going to see increasing extreme weather events, and we need to adapt our infrastructure.
Climate change is happening, and we see it in reality every day. We have over 700,000 farmers around the world who we source from. So it's not something we can walk away from. It's something that hits us every day. We see it for real. So we have taken on board a lot of sort of strategic work in this area. So we look at water, we look at energy, responsible sourcing. In that mix, we have a huge amount of work that's going on for food security. It's great you can have buildings, but if you've got no food, what's the point of buildings? So food security lies at the heart of the way we're looking at resilience, building resilience.
The fundamental problem for the food industry, the fundamental consequence is the concern about food security. Farmers can play a part in sustainability and the effects on climate change, but the ultimate risk is food security. And I'm normally an optimistic guy, but I find it difficult to be optimistic about food security. And we haven't mentioned population. Even if we were not talking about climate change, the pressure of population is putting enormous strain on food security.
I think London is certainly looking at this in very innovative ways, but then there are challenges here as well. I mean, there have been huge plans for the Thames Gateway, east of the Thames Barrier. That is a known flood zone. Climate change could potentially make that more challenging to deal with. So how do we actually accommodate all the new residents in this metro area? Is it about not building there, or is it about building smarter buildings there? I think these are questions we certainly need to consider, and I think working between the financial sector, so insurers and bankers, as well as engineers and architects and planners, the answers to some of these challenges can certainly be overcome.
One of our big issues is that we see supply chain risks as being very primary in the value of companies for the future, but we just can't get that data. So, I mean, we speak to companies, and the most forward-looking ones are much more receptive on trying to understand what's important for them and communicate that. But I would say, yeah, we need regulators, we need policymakers, we would like NGOs to be much more part of this debate as well, because a lot of that push is coming from that area as well. So we're getting there, but that's one of the main areas that I think from our side we would say we need